Whoo, what a bonkers week one around the NFL Sunday. Still one more to game Monday Night Football. We'll make our picks here with the Seahawks and the Broncos for Monday Night Football, but a ton to get to you from Sunday, including the Dak Prescott injury, a number of other important injuries around the league. Which teams are in trouble after 1 week of the NFL season, and maybe which teams did we underrate coming into the year? And I think there's some clear elites around the NFL after one game. Can we even draw those conclusions? Matt and I will get into it on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock and Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. We'll hit some of your Twitter Tuesday questions tomorrow. I know you have a lot of them now that you've seen your football teams playing NFL football here in the regular season of 2022. Thanks again, everybody, for making Peacock and Williamson your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Let's start with some bad news, and that was the injuries around the NFL in week number one. None bigger than quarterback Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys, who is out, depending on the severity of this broken thumb is what they think it is. And we'll have MRIs and more information on a lot of these injuries tomorrow. But with Dak, Matt, this is huge for the Dallas Cowboys. Broken thumb could be 4 to 6 at best, probably more like 6 to 8 weeks on the injury for Dak Prescott. And that could just completely derail their season.
Yeah, and I want to get to that in 1 second, but just a quick preference. I mean, it's overreaction Monday to no degree, to the nth degree, but I still think we're going to do it. I am so exuberant about what we saw. We just saw a wave of unbelievable football, especially in that 1 o'clock hour here, Eastern. Your team played in an utter swamp. My team played one of the craziest games I've ever seen, and then it went all day long. So what a blast that was. I mean, I'm sure you had as good a time as I did.
Hey, we only have 1 week of information, so let's react to the only information we have, which is to overreact. Let's do it.
But Dallas, I didn't have them making the playoffs. I think there's been a lot of bad mojo going into the season. Some of the receivers they were trotting out there, even when Dak was healthy, I had not heard of. Left tackle problems. And I really thought their saving grace, especially in their division, when you look at Wentz, Jones, and Hurts, was, well, they definitely have the best quarterback, though. Dak can raise all ships maybe more than the other divisional quarterbacks. Well, I'm guessing that's going to be 6 to 8, and they don't have Andy Dalton as a backup anymore, and the offense was really sputtering, to be kind, to begin with. And I think this is a big, big deal. I mean, I'm going to overreact to no end, and I think Dallas is in massive trouble.
Not only are they in trouble because they lost their quarterback, which we thought was going to buoy this team, which is why I still picked them to win the East, but they looked like they were in trouble even before Dak.
Big time.
They looked bad up front. They had no weapons outside of CeeDee Lamb. He had, how many targets did CeeDee Lamb have? And only, one catch in the first half of the game?
Yeah, it felt like they were running like a box and one on CeeDee Lamb, or like tripling him. Like there was only one guy they're afraid of.
They clearly weren't scared of anybody else in the passing game, and why would you be? And CeeDee Lamb had 11 targets, only had 2 catches in the game for 29 yards.
That's brutal.
And no help up front for Dak Prescott, which is part of the reason why he got hurt. High-fiving a defender as he's trying to get the ball out of his hands.
Exactly.
So it was bad anyway. So I don't, if you're the Cowboys, do you even go make, let's say it's 8 to 10 weeks, worst case scenario. He's going to be out all season. Your season's done. Do you go spend a draft pick, go try to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo to save the season? Or did it look so bad outside of Dak that it's not even worth saving?
I think that's a really tough conversation. And my hunch is, just judging their offseason, they realize that maybe we got to stop spending. Maybe we got to stop going all in. They weren't as aggressive as usual this offseason. I kind of felt like they were in a holding pattern in terms of team building, spending. Maybe we'll keep some picks going and, move on. Not necessarily move on, but find the Tyron Smith and Zeke Elliott's of the future and that type of thing. And maybe they know that next year we might be better suited for this than now. I don't know that I'd be all in on a guy like Jimmy. I mean, if you could, a good example to me would be go get a Minshew type. Of course, the Eagles aren't going to help him, but somebody cheap that's been around the block, the Andy Dalton types, as opposed to a real pick for a guy like Jimmy.
Mason Rudolph maybe is a name.
Oh, everyone here wants him to go there.
Yeah. It's the first thing you see. Dak's going to be out for half the season. And
right.
Every 49ers fan's like, oh, maybe Jimmy G. Every Steelers fan, oh, maybe this is when we send Mason Rudolph somewhere and get a draft pick. If teams are willing to let go of a quarterback, that's probably not someone who's going to come save your season anyway. If you're the Dallas Cowboys,
and they're not going to be ready this week,
Yeah, I mean, right. So
if it's 03, before you know it,
if it's 4 weeks, you have no choice but to go with Cooper Rush.
Right.
And if it's 8 weeks, is that even enough? Because it'll take a few weeks. If it saves you 4 wins, that could be the difference. Is that worth a day 2 pick or whatever it would cost to trade for a certain quarterback? How much better is Mason Rudolph than Cooper Rush?
Right.
So there's a lot of questions there for the Dallas Cowboys. And is this a sunk season anyway? If your offensive line is going to be that bad, that's the big question.
Right. And the weapons are, you're counting on James Washington to come back. Best of luck with that.
My biggest takeaway at the end of that game was obviously it was a 19-3 win of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. But there was a pretty good wide receiver out there for free all off season long that the Dallas Cowboys could have gone and got that would have helped a lot in Julio Jones. And he looked pretty good. He did not look like he was done. And actually, I saw an interesting stat about Julio Jones. I guess according to the GPS stuff at practice, he clocked the fastest time on their offense.
Wow.
Running speed. Yeah.
Wow. That's surprising. I kind of thought he couldn't run anymore, I
think maybe his build-up speed is still there, but it's the short area quicks that he might not have quite as much as he used to because he was an alien. He was a freak of nature with how well he could move at his size. But Julio Jones looked like he had a little bit left in the tank for Tom Brady and those Buccaneers. And obviously Mike Evans with a spectacular one-handed touchdown catch. And so the Buccaneers there were some questions about their offensive line. It looks like they're getting through it a lot better than the Cowboys are.
Yeah, and great debut for the head coach, Todd Bowles, who I'm a fan of. I thought their defense was exceptional. You can look at Dallas and all the problems, but Tampa Bay caused a lot of problems as well, as I think they will, across the season, especially on Tampa's D. I do worry about the Tampa's offensive line, but I think you said this well a couple times leading up to the year is if you can put a full 17 games of high quality play between Julio and Godwin, who wasn't himself and left this game, another injury type guy, then you'll be fine. And mix in the Gages and Perrymans and those guys and Evans is your one. You'll be fine. Brady will make it work. And
Julio was moving around a lot better than Chris Godwin. And you have to ask the question, did they bring back Chris Godwin too soon? Another injury from this game. And I think it was a hamstring injury, which, something that happens when you come back from a major injury like he had with his knee that was not that long ago. It was late in the season, week 15, I believe, when Chris Godwin tore his ACL. So did they bring him back too soon? It looks like with Julio and Mike Evans, they're going to be okay in the short term. But obviously that is an injury to monitor. And I think clearly the answer is, they brought Godwin back a little bit too soon.
I would imagine. I always have a hard time commenting on injuries, but it was always, all of us fantasy people, where should I take Godwin and Michael Thomas? Well, one of them sure looked like he was fine, and the other one quickly did not look like he was fine. I mean, you just never know on these things. And I think it is safe to say that, they probably brought him back too soon.
What's funny is I have both Julio Jones and Chris Godwin in our Peacock and Williamson fantasy league. Yeah, and I sat Godwin and started Jones, so I think I'm in an okay spot there.
Okay.
Although my roster is hurting. It's not a great roster. I've got an uphill battle in that league. That is for sure.
That league is thin, dude.
Yeah, it's thin and 14 teamers. So good luck to the rest of the folks in that league. I've got an uphill battle to make the playoffs. Really quick, some other injuries, and we'll come back tomorrow once these MRIs. We'll have a lot more information. We'll circle back here with TJ Watt in a second. Looks like maybe a torn pec there. Najee Harris as well. Steelers running back injured. T. Higgins in that game with the Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals was hurt. Mac Jones has a back injury for the New England Patriots, who looked awful. Elijah Mitchell has a knee injury, only lasted a quarter for the San Francisco 49ers, and Keenan Allen left the game early for the Chargers. But you're plugged into the Steelers. Can you give us any more info really quick here about TJ Watt and Najee Harris?
Yeah, and sure looks like the Bengals better find a new long snapper too. I mean, I think that can be arranged.
Should have led with that story.
Yeah, that's a big one. I don't know. I will know probably in the next couple hours. We're recording this in the noon hour here Monday. I'm assuming Watt will miss significant time. I guess, trust me, I've done a lot of homework on pec strains and tears in the last 24 hours. Big brother had one. He only missed like 6 to 8 games. Cam Hayward here had one, missed the remainder of the season, then came back and was better than ever. I guess there's 3 different degrees of them, but all of them are 4 to 6, 8 to 10, or season ender. I think those are your 3 options. Najee didn't look good, but I mean, a lot of people think that could be a high ankle sprain, which that could be all year long looming, you know?
Yeah, those high ankle sprains are tough and take a long time to recover from. So bad news there for the Steelers as far as the
squeaked out a win, but boy, rough day.
Did squeak out a win. Some other teams, we need to ask the question, are they in trouble? I think the answer is yes for the Dallas Cowboys. We'll get to the Patriots, Titans, 49ers, and Cards, who all lost in week 1 next. And then some other teams, are they good that maybe we didn't expect, like the Giants and the Texans, the Falcons, the Bears? A ton to get to from week 1 coming up. But first, I want to let the folks out there know about BrightCo. And come on, we all hate insurance, right? Until we actually need it. And these folks at BrightCo turn the whole experience around. So it's probably the easiest thing you can do for yourself this week to get that jewelry or ring or watch insured. There's no excuses anymore. For $5 a month, you can get a totally comprehensive coverage for your jewelry, and it won't take you more than 2 minutes on your cell phone or your computer to get done. So check it out at bright.co/locked on. And by the way, at BrightCo, you can find a ton of videos on some, just hilarious ways that folks lose their jewelry, and especially when they are trying to have a really fancy engagement, especially near bodies of water, which, come on, don't do it. I saw another one. It wasn't even on bright.co/locked on. You can find some of these videos. I saw another one over the weekend that was a gentleman who was proposing to his wife and looked like they maybe had a child involved that was trying to help out and open up the box. And
the kids will screw everything up.
Yeah, never let the kids around anything expensive. Come on, have a fake ring for the kid to bring out, and it goes ding, 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 whoosh, right in the crack of the pier, right into the water. And it's amazing how often that happens. So don't let that happen to you. Get insured. Go to bright.co/locked on. You can see some of those hilarious videos there as well. Thanks again, everybody, for making Peacock and Williamson your first listen. For your second listen, make sure you are checking out your team's coverage right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. All the NFL teams, every sport, you name it, you have your own show for your team right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, Matt. The Dallas Cowboys, I believe, are 100% in trouble. And just because of the Dak injury and how they looked, I don't even think that's in the overreaction category of them being in trouble for the 2022 season. So other teams didn't look great in week 1, and we know that those things can turn around quickly. So I want to ask the question about some of these other teams here, if they are in trouble, namely the New England Patriots, Tennessee Titans, San Francisco 49ers, and the Arizona Cardinals. Let's start with the Patriots. Mac Jones has a back injury. That will have a factor in it, but they couldn't score against the Miami Dolphins. And by the way, those first-year head coaches finding a lot of success in week 1 around the NFL, including the Miami Dolphins and Mike McDaniel. And there was only one head coach in history that's had a bigger advantage in head coach wins over another head coach. And the guy with 0 wins and now 1 win, and Mike McDaniel was the winner against Bill Belichick's New England Patriots. Are the Pats in trouble, Matt?
Well, I mean, there's no way of ignoring preconceived pre-regular season notions and all the homework we did. I mean, you can't just change your mind with one game. I've been studying these teams every day, whether there's games or not. And I was worried about Dallas. I was very down on the Titans and Patriots. And I feel like I'm justified on those two. I mean, I look at New England's roster and just think there's not very many good players. All the offense in the preseason was, let's be kind and call it disjointed, but really it was miserable. They have no team speed whatsoever on offense, and you're going through a scheme change, and I think the old scheme fit Mac Jones better than the new scheme. They sure could use Dante Scarnecchia coaching up that O-line, and Miami threw a lot at them, and they were miserable. I mean, that was as bad of an offensive performance outside of the monsoon game that you watched that we saw. Brutal.
Yeah, and you can't blame that Patriots offense on the weather either.
No.
And clearly there's questions about the process there and having a defensive coach and a special teams coach coaching the offense, right? And Bill Belichick, no doubt, is involved there as well. That it hasn't worked yet. The idea seemed bad, looked bad in the preseason, now has looked bad week 1 of the regular season. They were able to scrape 1 touchdown pass from Mac Jones, and Mac Jones' line wasn't terrible. He was 21 of 30 passing.
Fine.
Yeah, 213 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was outdueled by his former Alabama teammate Tua Tagovailoa, who was 23 of 33 passing for 270 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, a 104.4 passer rating, by the way, for Tua in that game. But I gotta believe, because and maybe this is just the bias of what I already thought about the Patriots. I gotta believe you put them in the yes, they are in trouble category.
And of course, Dak could come back and they could go on a 8-game winning streak. Belichick could get this all figured out. Folks, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We know that. I've made this mistake every week 1 of my life. But I already had problems with them, and those problems were exacerbated watching them in live football. And going to Miami in week 1 looked like a buzzsaw any way you cut it, just weather and fatigue and all those things, and they always struggle there. They come here next week, and they won't, the Steelers won't have Watt. Maybe that goes better. But boy, I mean, I always look at it through a Steeler lens. I'm excited to play the Patriots next week. They look awful.
Absolutely. 20-7 was the final there as the Miami Dolphins beat the New England Patriots in week 1. Congrats to Mike McDaniel for getting his first NFL win.
Real quick,
how about
BP? Like you can't help but look at the Patriots and say, you're definitely 3rd in your division right now.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
Right. Maybe worse.
I thought the Rams looked better. There was a question about, you never know what a new coaching staff is going to look like. You never know how everything's going to come together. But, man, just watching those two teams, one has a lot of team speed and one has no team speed.
Exactly.
And I don't know what the Patriots hang their hat on. Mac Jones isn't going to put a team on his back and go, win a Super Bowl without help. And he's not getting help on the offensive line, doesn't have a lot of playmakers, and they're worse on defense.
Right. I just don't see it.
I don't see it either. What do you see with the Tennessee Titans? And I don't want to, pat myself on the back here, but there was a lot of Titans fans that were upset with us, Matt, with our predictions episodes leading into the season. We didn't have them making the playoffs. We didn't have them winning the division. We were taking the under on their over-under win total. And I thought for sure they were going to pull this game out. Even late, I still thought they were going to pull it out. And they did not. The New York Giants, first-year head coach, Brian Daboll, Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, they came back, the New York Giants, on the road to beat the Titans in Tennessee 21-20. Are the Titans in trouble, Matt?
This one I want to rewatch, and I definitely will this week, because I was like you and I was glued to the Steeler game, of course, and there was so much action going on at the same time. And I just kept thinking, they'll put the Giants away. And then Saquon's running crazy on these guys. But you look at the box score, it's not bad for Tennessee. Tannehill played fine. The running game was fine. They spread the ball around, yards per play, time of possession, other box score scouting stuff, like turnovers weren't massively in the Giants' favor. So I'm curious to look at it and see, what went wrong in the second half, because this game was 13-0 Tennessee at the half. And, the Giants end up scoring 21 points in the second half to win this thing. They were shut out in the first half. I kind of want to give the Giants more credit than I want to kill the Titans, but I've been killing the Titans all off season, and I thought they were in trouble to begin with. But the division doesn't look brutal either. So I don't want to say they're in trouble already, because Indy didn't exactly look great, but I think this is a step back for Tennessee this year, and that's what I believe from the start.
Giants were feeding Saquon Barkley 6 catches and 18 carries for 100 and almost 200 total yards there. And man, he was looking explosive, which was really good to see for the Giants and for your fantasy team. If you have Saquon Barkley, talk about overreaction. If you had to redraft fantasy leagues, where would you put Saquon Barkley right now? Top 3 pick? He was in the second round in most drafts.
I know, and I got him there like crazy. He was my RB6. So like you'd much rather have him than Najee Harris, some of the guys that went way ahead of him. I mean, I think he's an easy first rounder. I had him there to begin with, but seeing this was great. And he's back and the volume's there.
Both quarterbacks in this game had really good ratings. Daniel Jones ended up 17 of 21. It was only 188 yards. It wasn't, a big time throwing haymakers out there, but he was efficient and he helped that team win. 115 passer rating, only 4 incompletions on the day, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Ryan Tannehill was 20 of 33, 266 yards, a couple of touchdowns. So it wasn't quarterback play that let either one of these teams down. To me, it was the explosiveness of Saquon Barkley and what they were able to do there on offense for the Giants versus Derrick Henry, who looked pedestrian in this game, and 21 carries. They fed him like they always do. 21 carries, only 82 yards, 3.9 yards per carry, and it was really his backup, Dontrell Hilliard, the sort of third down receiving back, who had a couple of touchdown passes. That was the entire offense for the Titans.
Yeah, he showed some juice. I think Hilliard's promising, but he's not going to imitate Henry. I just think that this offense's ship has kind of sailed a little bit.
We're going to ask the questions, are they good, about the New York Giants here in a second. To answer the question, are they in trouble? It's sort of the preseason bias again. I don't think the Titans are in trouble like they're going to be drafted in the top 5, but I think they are in trouble if you're trying to make the playoffs in a very, very difficult AFC. So I would put them in the same category as the Patriots, where they're pretty much right where I thought they were going to be, and I wasn't high on them coming into the year.
And there won't be a competitor, we'll put it that way, especially when you see the big dogs in the AFC.
So nobody has won a game in the NFC West yet this week. The San Francisco 49ers lost in a monsoon to the Chicago Bears, which on paper should have been a mismatch in the other direction. And the Arizona Cardinals came out really flat and just looked completely overmatched against the Kansas City Chiefs in week 1. What do you think about those teams in the West, the 49ers and the Cardinals? Are they in trouble?
Radar just went up a little bit, those 3 teams, Dallas, Patriots, Titans, I think, they're in trouble. The other ones I just kind of wrote down and put a question mark. I'm open to the idea that things didn't go as planned. I expected more. I'm going to blame the weather with your Niners more than anything. And I might just blame the Chiefs being awesome is in the other in the other situation,
I was a little bit worried. This is always going to be planted in our head, and this is unfair to Kyler Murray, but this is always going to be there now with the stipulation they put in his contract. And I'm watching him through a different lens now, and it's totally unfair to him. But I'm watching him not recognize free blitzers off the edge. I'm watching him not recognize things, and I'm thinking, oh man, is that a lack of film work? Is Kyler Murray ever going to take that next step? And he showed a lot of that. But again, I think with the Cardinals and the 49ers, you nailed it. If there's any game in week 1 you can't take too much from, it's a game where they're playing in a kiddie pool, it looked like.
Right, it was insane,
especially in the fourth quarter. With a couple of young quarterbacks, I think those teams are going to be highly volatile just because of the youth of their quarterbacks and how they develop anyway. And I was impressed with neither one of those quarterbacks folding, which I think bodes well for both of those guys. But not being able
even the playing field, and Bosa's not going to give any get off against the bad tackle, and all the mismatches you had are gone. And
the 49ers let them hang around. They dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides in the first half of the game, and then that kind of got a little tired. There was a lot of penalties, which I think is something that happens a lot. Just awkwardness, weird week 1. Oddities that are going to happen around the league. So I think that one game with the 49ers and Bears, you can't take too much away from. And I think you're right. I think if you ask the question, who are the elite teams in the league after 1 week, you have to put the Chiefs in there. And maybe that's just the Cardinals ran into a buzzsaw. The Chiefs are still really good. Patrick Mahomes, still really good without Tyreek Hill. You have to put the Bills in that category. And who else do you have to put in that category? You probably have to put the Chargers after week 1 in that category of the true elites in the NFL.
Yeah, and again, a lot of this is what you thought of them coming in, but I thought those 3 are kind of standing out as the best teams in the league. And then I would draw a line under the rest. It just so happens they all play in the AFC, so we can't see both of them in the Super Bowl, and who knows if they're even going to be that good at that time. But Buffalo was awesome. Kansas City was awesome. Herbert was phenomenal. They'd be 3rd for me, but I'm kind of proud of myself. My power ranks went Buffalo, Kansas City, Chargers. So a little pat on the back. Kind of a honorable mention, I would say, to the Bucks, Eagles, Vikings, and Ravens. I think that they all either held serve Tampa or increased their stock a little bit to me, the Eagles, Vikings, and Ravens.
I have a note on the Vikings as well, because I would have put them in the "Are they good" category before this week, and I was very impressed.
Like
by
Miami.
them. Right? Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we'll get to them next, and then we'll answer the question: Are they good for a couple of teams in the NFL that we didn't expect as much from? Plus, make our picks for Broncos at Seahawks Monday Night Football. And if you want to get involved on Monday night and have a little fun playing daily fantasy sports, you can do that with PrizePicks. PrizePicks is super fun, super easy. All you do is you pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePick projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. In fact, it's so easy, I can make a pick right now on Monday Night Football while I'm on my phone, while I'm also talking about this app. It's so fun. PrizePicks.
I'm going to do it right now.
Yeah, go do it right now. What those projections are for, Russell Wilson to go big against his old team on Monday Night Football. It's always a lot of fun. And Russell Wilson, 260.5 passing yards is the number. I think I might want to go over that in week 1, a little revenge game action. Although the revenge games weren't as lopsided as maybe some people would have thought around the league in week 1. So go to PrizePicks right now. Open the app or go to prizepicks.com to find those projections and go win yourself up to 10 times your money on any entry. It's not just NFL daily fantasy sports either. Major League Baseball, NBA, golf, college sports, motorsports, combat sports, you name it, they have it at PrizePicks. Entries can be made quick and easy. I could have just done it while I'm talking, and safe and easy and fast withdrawals of your money that you win as well. So download the PrizePicks app, go to prizepicks.com, sign up to play daily fantasy sports. You can receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, you get $100 to play with. If you deposit $50, you get $50 to play with. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100. So quickly, Matt, on the are they good front?
Yeah,
I would put Dolphins Vikings in there, and I think the answer is yes, because there was evidence that they were going to be competitive and good. And man, the Vikings dominated the Packers. That was a little bit of a shocker. And maybe are they in trouble? You might want to put the Green Bay Packers in that, just because of, again, similar to the Cowboys. The offensive line play wasn't good without Bakhtiari and Elgton Jenkins, and where were the weapons? Even when you get a guy open, he's dropping touchdown passes. Rookies dropping passes out there for Aaron Rodgers. So that had to be frustrating for them. They couldn't get anything going. And the Vikings, first-year head coach, looked like a completely different team than we saw last year, somewhat like the Dolphins. But on the are they good side, the New York Giants, the Chicago Bears, and the Texans and Falcons, I think, are the ones that really are like, okay, those might be vying for the top 4 picks in the NFL draft this year. And all of them nearly won their week 1 matchups.
So we said, 4 teams? We already talked about the Bears. So I'm kind of just going to set them to the side. Valiant effort, rooting for Fields, weather. I think the 3, I think you just said, were Giants, Texans, Falcons.
Yes.
And I'm going to say, no, they're not good. I'm going to stick with that. I really think all 3 of those teams are very much lacking in talent. But this time last year, we were asking that same thing about the Bengals, who just had to make the 3rd pick in the draft a minute ago. You know what I'm saying? But I will say Houston, Giants, Atlanta, especially Giants in Atlanta, they might be really well coached. Like Atlanta got more wins out of a bad team last year than they should have. I really liked what Dayball did. Lovey's absolutely an NFL head coach, and they're starting to give him some things to work with. So I don't think any of those teams will be quite the pushovers we thought. I mean, maybe after a couple injuries they will be, and their talent will be exposed, but I think they're well coached.
Yep. I don't think you can put a number, a win total on exactly how important it is to find the right head coach. And I think the Giants and Bears, the early returns look very good for those teams that were competitive and came back in those football games against teams that on paper they should have lost to. And most people picked them to lose against this year.
So that's promising. Great first step. Are they good? I'm not willing to go there yet, but great first step. Promising week 1.
All right, make your pick.
I'm sorry, Miami and Minnesota are kind of a different beast. Like, they might be good.
Different beast. Let's wait and find out if they're good or not. Okay, real quick, Matt. We got 30 seconds. Do you want? Are you picking the Broncos, giving up 6.5 points on the road against the Seahawks, or do you think the Seahawks have a chance to upset these Denver Broncos?
I'm torn. I'm going to lay the points. I think Russell explodes in his old neighborhood, and they're just much more talented.
I think for the long haul of the season, I think maybe the Seahawks, we're talking about the are they good category, maybe being underrated, but I don't see how they cannot lose big to Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos here in week 1. That's it for us. Thanks everybody for listening. Back tomorrow.